Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to Be My Guest. Today we have from Franck and Libby Franck. And Libby is a historical storyteller, and she's a Civil War encampment participant. That's a lot of stuff to be doing. I asked her when she came in, but I wanted to share it with you. When and how did you get interested in this?
All right. It was my mother. My mother was a children's librarian in Dayton, Ohio, and in Marion, Indiana. And she told stories to lots and lots of kids. So I grew up with all of this. It was sort of like an internship of my childhood. She would introduce me to the best of children's literature that she'd spent years learning about, and also storytelling. I mean, she'd just tell me all the stories she used to tell the kids. Yeah. She also made up special stories just for me, which was kind of fun.
Now, Mike, did your mother read to you a lot at night before bed?
All day long.
Oh, my mother read to read. Do you remember the Boxcar Children?
A little.
How about Thornton Burgess? Oh, you have Thornton Burgess?
I know.
My mother used to be the animals.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And when I was 8, she was still. So one night she said, "Come on, Jane, you can read to yourself now." And I could. I could read 2 years before that, but I loved hearing her. So you and I have a similar background. So you were not born and raised in Massachusetts. You were from, was it New York? New York.
Pelham, New York.
What brought you here? Wellesley College? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. So you went to Wellesley, graduated 4 years.
Yes.
What was your degree?
History of art.
That's what I majored in, art history. We are so
my twin.
Yeah, you stuck around longer than I did. I got bored out of my mind.
Well, I still was very surprised that I ended up in library work. I was like, I'm not going to be a librarian. But, you know, they were having people talk about careers, and I was engaged.
Yeah.
So I knew I didn't need the kind of a career where I would meet men. How do you like that? So I went to Simmons Library School, and I worked for the Boston Public Library.
Yeah.
First, I worked at the South Boston Branch Library, and I was the assistant to the children's librarian. She was marvelous. She was German, and she had polio, so she had a heavy brace. But she got around South Boston. She had this wonderful program where she would go to all the schools, and then the schools would come to the library on Friday morning, and we have regular story hour. She was thrilled that I could equally share the storytelling load with her.
So that's where you got your storytelling love, right?
Well, my mother was always doing it.
So now you've got two resources that you can follow back. So when did you get into the historical encampments and all?
Well, that was not for quite a while. I was with, I have this beautiful Victorian house. And Framingham every year has a historical house tour. And they finally got in touch with me, and they said, we'd like your house on the house tour. So that was in 2005. So that was how I got involved with the Framingham History Center. And because my house was on the tour, of course it was the hit of the house tour. And I just started, they would tell me different people, that eras, exhibits that were coming up, and I'd find a local woman. Now, how did I know how to do this? That was also because of my mother, because she wrote 18 historical novels for teenage girls in the 50s and 60s. And so I knew just how to do it.
Have you written at all about your adventures?
Well, I tell about it a lot. I have.
How about writing about it?
What I want to do is write a book about my house, my beautiful Victorian house with a tower, the mansard Victorian.
Well, were you, when they said they wanted to tour, and I think most of us girls, oh my God, now I've got to really scour this place. You know, and did you have to go into mode of like hurry up and clean everything? And
no. As long as you have a basement and you have rooms you can close off.
Okay.
And a garage with a door that closes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you
Stuff
can
it in
limit
there.
it. You can limit it.
Yeah.
You know, don't go here.
How long did they bring people through your home? Did you have to? Did
4
they
or
tell
5
you?
hours. Yeah.
What did you do when they were there?
Well, I was someplace else.
Oh, okay. It's sort of like
I mean, sometimes I would be there.
It's like having a real estate agent bring people through.
It is. But I had a lot of extra things. I had my friends, the proper ladies, have Victorian songs in harmony. So I made sure I had the music playing in the background.
So that's a good one.
And yeah.
All right, so you worked at the Boston Public Library. BA of History of Art from Wellesley, degree from Simmons Library Science. Where was your first library job besides working at the Boston
Well,
Public?
then I worked at the Brookline.
Yeah.
But their libraries were in the schools.
Yeah.
So it was under the umbrella of the town library. But I worked in the Runkle School and I worked in the Heath School. And then I had to leave my job because I was pregnant, and we did that in those days.
Really?
And I moved out here, and we got this house in Framingham. And then I ended up in the Natick schools, and I ran all of the school libraries. There were 13 schools when I started, and 5 when I left.
Did you prefer the Boston Public Library or the school libraries? What do you think?
Well, Boston Public Library had this rule that you had to live in the city of Boston. I didn't, but then they imposed that,
Yeah.
and that was
That's
really-
weird.
It is weird.
We had children Grafton, our librarians from up
No.
north in North
Oh, I know.
Massachusetts.
Anyway,
Is that still in effect?
it might be.
that is
I don't
bizarre.
know. I don't know. When I was there, it was just a wonderful program. We had a woman who was head of storytelling, and it was really good.
Did you storytell there too?
Oh yes, and I took this course by Ruth Hill Viggers, and it was in storytelling, and we used a book called The Art of the Storyteller by Ruth Sawyer, and we all had to tell one of her stories. And then the woman who was teaching the course, she said, "You know, we're going to have a festival, and Ruth Sawyer is going to be there, and we would like people to tell her stories to her." So I told this Irish story, A Matter of Brogues.
So you've mastered that sound of the
Oh
language.
yes, oh yes.
Now, we're talking with Libby Franck, and she is a historical storyteller, freelance.
Yeah.
And she's in the Civil War encampment participant. I don't know how you
I
guys
don't do
survive.
that many of that. Yeah,
How do
we
you
do.
survive in those hot outfits and that type of thing?
Oh well, I didn't. I'm not really a super duper one. I mean, I would come in and they'd say, "Well, go to this church and tell about what you did, Julia," or I interviewed the author of Uncle Tom's Cabin. What's her name?
Beecher Stowe?
Harriet Beecher Stowe. We had a little chat there in a church, and so I'm not really into cooking or tenting or any of it. But I have to say, I went back in the evening, and there were all of these little campfires, and it really brought to life. I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. And it's really quite exciting when you see it there.
Libby,
brought to life.
tell us about all these characters. Who do you portray?
Actually, one of the first that I did was a woman from Hopkinton, Lady Agnes Franklin, Agnes Surridge, the scullery maid from Marblehead, who ended up with a British baronet in a big estate in Hopkinton. I mean, who knows? She was in the earthquake in Portugal in 1755. So that was sort of the first one that I did. But when I started with the History Center, I did a librarian that worked at the Edge Library. I don't know, I just sort of...
That's in Framingham, the Edge Hill, isn't it? Is that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
and that
I've
was
been
built
there.
for the Civil War,
Yeah,
for the
right.
soldiers of the Civil War. So she talked a lot about the battle hymn that was written there, and then Harmony Grove and Framingham, and a lot of books. I framed it around Huckleberry Finn because that was very controversial way back in the 1880s, and they didn't want it in their library, and so she was having a little war of words with one of the trustees, and at the end he said, "I think we'll put Huckleberry Finn in our library."
So she was your first storyteller, your personality that you do. She was your first?
She was one. I also did Mary Bryant, who was sent to Australia as a convict, and she made a marvelous escape and got back to England. I mean, that's a pretty dramatic story. And then also the two pirates, Anne Bonny and Mary Read.
Where are you from? Did you do a lot of research on people you could portray?
They just sort of come.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never said, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to," it would just happen. Like I watched my mother always come up with a new idea for her historical novels. So first I did the library, and then I did Dr. Van Waters, who was the superintendent at the women's prison.
And you're at Framingham, right?
Right, absolutely. She was quite amazing.
Was she good or was she?
She was very good.
Okay.
But it was, what she set up is no longer there. I mean, we go back and forth and back and forth. Punishment reform, punishment reform. But she had a little house where the women could stay with their babies. Mm-hmm. And the women always had to be gotten to the hospital to deliver their babies. I mean, it was quite...
What a difference between then and now. It was more to say the least, humanitarian.
Well, she had her problems. She got fired by the Old Boy Network after World War II.
Why?
But she got herself reinstated with the help of Eleanor Roosevelt.
Well, what was their excuse for getting rid of her?
That she was too liberal, and she had... she hired former convicts to work with the women. But she said, who better than someone who's gone through it would know how to...
It's like somebody in rehab for addiction. There was a counselor who went that way. It's like
yes, exactly, absolutely. That was.
So who comes next? Who's the other people that you?
Then I did Josephine Collins, the suffragist from Framingham. Mm-hmm. She had a dry goods store, and she was thrown into the Charles Street jail in 1920. She was picketing Woodrow Wilson when he came back from Europe. Yeah. So they didn't stay very long, but still she was in there. And there's another woman from Framingham, I just talk about her, Louise Mayo. She was a farmer's wife and a former school teacher. She had 7 children. And she went down to Washington, D.C. and picketed the White House on Bastille Day earlier. And
but Bastille Day, that's the French celebration, right?
I know, but it just happened to be that day.
Yeah, that's the 14th of
July.
July, yeah,
yes.
I got it.
And so there was a woman from the National Councils came to Framingham, recruiting people to go down to Washington, D.C. And Mrs. Mayo said, I would gladly dedicate my mind and my body to the cause of suffrage. She went down there. So Alice Paul made sure that every woman who was thrown into jail got this jail door pin. And we sell replicas of them. Yeah. But they had it in England first. Mrs. Pankhurst had one for them. They really had a lot of people in jail in England. And it looks like a portcullis, and it's really kind of scary.
Who's your favorite person to? You must have somebody you really get into a lot. What do you like to portray?
Oh, I like all of them. I like Julia Ward Howe a lot. I did the Dennison Company. Mm-hmm.
No more, right, in Framingham? It's not there in Framingham, right?
What?
The Dennison, is it still there in Framingham?
Oh, no, it's not. But there's still a lot of repercussions. They did a lot. But I did all of the women of the family, and I found out a lot about them poking through the alumni notes.
Oh, good.
A line.
Yeah, why not?
And someone has just moved to Harvard, and I had these kids, so and the one I really sort of don't like very much is Mary Ware Dennett, but you can't love them all.
How many in all do you portray?
Oh, about 8, I guess. I don't do them all the time.
And to get into personality, I mean, it's like an actor on stage, right? You've got to get into it and be it, right?
Yeah.
My mother was studying stage. She was at Emerson. That's where she met my father.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess one of the directors once told her, if you can't separate the actor from their part, they're doing a good job. In other words, I wouldn't know anything else about them. They look so doggone real and believable. And I'll bet you do that too. Libby, how can people reach you if they'd like to have you do a storytelling?
I think you have my email.
No, they don't.
They don't?
No.
Oh, well, they're going to show it at some point, aren't you?
You can just say it. Go right ahead.
Except I use a different one, so I'm not sure.
Well,
one of them is libby.franck@verizon.net.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I also, I've performed a lot of places in schools, and I think I wanted to do this little bit of Julia Ward Howe, just because I think it's
Go for it.
Cool.
Go ahead.
The beginning.
Yeah. First of all, tell them who she was. A lot of people don't know.
Julia Ward Howe was a poet of the 19th century. She was not a happily married woman. She was married to Dr. Samuel Gridley Howe at the Perkins Institute for the Blind. He was very humanitarian and he had a lot of good ideas, but he was a terrible husband.
Why, did he beat her?
Possibly.
Oh. She should have left.
He wouldn't let her write her poetry. A woman's voice should not be heard in the wide world. It should just be heard. Anyway,
Was he one of those strict religious guys?
No, he was just a typical 19th century guy. Yeah.
Right.
She had 6 children.
Oh,
But this is the way it starts out. My name is Julia Ward Howe. Every part of my name is a story. Julia. I was named for my mother, Julia Cutler of Jamaica Plain. She too was a published poet. And I was also named for my sister, Julia, who died 2 weeks before I was born. She was the first little Julia. She was good. I was not. I have red hair.
That made a difference back then, huh?
Yes. So she, her mother died when she was 3, and that was a big thing.
Where do you give your presentations? Where do you go the most, do you think? All over?
Well, I've gone to different historical societies, libraries. I've done them in
How about some
libraries.
senior centers?
I have done that too.
I'll bet they love it. I would
Yes.
think that they would. And there's so many historic. Doesn't just about every town in America has a historic. You're sitting right across from one right now.
Right. So the other, that's how you never know what you're going to find out next. It's always surprising. So one of the things that Julia's mother did, she took her to upstate New York, and she said, now you're going to meet an Indian chief, and Chief Red Jacket, and be sure to notice the medal that he has. It was given to him by George Washington. Well, her mother gave her a little twist of tobacco, and she said, give it to the chin, and Julia just, she was 3. She just hugged him, and her mother didn't like that. He didn't like it either. So, a medal. So I'm picturing something like a little Catholic medallion. And I found a picture of Chief Red Jacket, a drawing of him, and it was huge.
A medal that was that big?
Yes, it was almost like a metal breastplate.
And she gave that to him?
No. George Washington gave it to him. She was supposed to give him a little twist of tobacco.
That's bizarre.
Oh, then there's another thing that I just found. This was really quite exciting. There was this poetess who's buried in Framingham, but she originally came from New Hampshire, and her name was Edna Dean Proctor, and she was living in the home in Brooklyn, New York, of the editor of her newspaper. She wrote poems in there. So one day he said, Edna, I want you to come to the library. It was winter. And I want you to bring your writing tools. So she went into the dining room and the library, and the snow was coming down. And he led in an old black woman with a man. And he said, Edna, this is Aunt Sally Williams. She has an amazing story to tell.
In poem? In rhyme?
No. And I want you to write it down in serial form, and it will be published in the newspaper.
Was it?
Yes, indeed it was. So it was a lot of work for me to take these serials, a couple of chapters every month for months and months. It was an amazing story. Literally, is a slave narrative.
Yeah, definitely.
But her son ended up being a minister in Detroit, and a lot of the stories that you think that's the way it was everywhere. Well, laws were meant to be broken, right?
Yeah.
So she was owned by one person, and then she could sort of rent herself out to somebody else. I mean, this was not in the Deep South. This was like in North Carolina.
Yeah.
But she looked around for a kind-faced man in the audience, and he came up to her and he said, Sally, here's the deal. If you can pay me $6 a month, your time is your own. You can earn money. And she did.
I mean, like the $6 was like her room and board, right?
Well, she'd pay that. She'd make money selling coffee and cakes and doing laundry and then she paid him that, and she could do what she wanted to with the rest of it, the time.
It's a different world.
It was, and she had two little boys, and he said to her, I've never found out exactly what his name was. He said, your son Isaac, he's just the cutest little boy. Would you mind if I taught him to read?
Yeah.
So he did, and then she bought him a Bible, and he would read the Bible to her. So, I mean, she was pretty amazing.
We're talking with Libby Franck, Franck.
Mhm.
Okay. She's a historical storyteller, and she's participated in the Civil War encampments, which is a marvelous storyteller. She's basically born and raised with it. Her mother wrote many, many books and read to her. And she wrote how many books? 18 books, did you say? And were they historical?
Yes.
They're all historical. Do you still have them?
Yes, I do. I brought two. But
Okay. Now, she's also shared with me, and where did I read about you? Was it one of the Sunday big newspapers?
It was that, wasn't it the 55 plus?
Okay, I get everything.
I don't
All right,
know.
Yeah, probably there.
Yeah.
Now, she also had, do you still have your show on cable?
No.
Was it in Framingham?
Natick.
In Natick. How long were you doing it?
I did it for, 83, and I stopped in 99. It was called Tales from Cricket Corner.
16 years. So what happened in Cricket Corner? What were you doing?
Well, I was the librarian for all of these schools, and I went to all of them, and I told story, and I thought, I don't get to see them that much. Well, but if I did a cable show, they could see me more regularly. So every show that I did, I had different audience, kids different grades.
Were they live in the studio?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. I mean, the kids were in the studio, but it wasn't broadcast live.
Okay, it was recorded in.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I would send home a little letter for permission to the parents.
Right.
And it started out, "Dear parents of future TV stars." That got their attention. They just sit there. Well, sometimes they actually did things, little poems and things.
So they did RSVP for you.
Well, they had
their
to. They had
attention.
to get, but they had to get permission.
Yeah,
That's
you
really
do
what
have
it
a
was.
good bait there because it got the
Oh,
attention
yeah.
of the parents.
I know all the parents,
Oh,
so
yeah.
their fingers were paused over record at home.
Oh yeah, you got the eagle right in the center there.
Yeah.
Of course, my child's going to be on television.
Well, it was never really that they had to be selected particularly. It was more like,
He's got them on.
it was after school hours. It wasn't during school.
What time was your show on?
Oh, I don't know. It varied.
You didn't have a set schedule on when your show was.
They did. I don't remember what it was, but I did it for so long, I'm sure it varied.
Did you like it?
Oh, yeah.
Did you miss it?
No, I don't know. It was, this staff at the studio was really, really good. I don't think I would have done it so long if they hadn't been
They were
very
perfect.
cooperative.
Yeah.
We edited things. The man who was there had originally been in Worcester, I think, and he'd done some storytelling show, so he sort of knew what it was about. But it was really fun. It was, and sometimes I'd have guest storytellers.
Sure.
It was, yeah.
Sounds like you could go back too.
Well, I suppose I could.
So what are your days like now? How many places are you scheduled to appear coming up?
Not that many right now, because I really got to do this book that I want to do about my house, my Victorian house. It's called The Ghosts of Pratt Street Palace.
Have you ever had a paranormal investigation?
No, I just said that. I don't think so. This is what I did. Okay, I just found out I was having twins. So I'm upstairs on the second floor. I'm in bed. And I announced to the stairwell, which seemed to be the heart of the house. And I said, if there are any ghosts here, they will have to help take care of the twins. No spirits appeared. That was a powerful exorcism.
You had twins? Libby. So you have a boy and a girl?
Yes.
You lucked in. You got a boy and a girl.
I know.
And then those are your two children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my son is 5 minutes older than his sister, and he says to everybody, the best 5 minutes of my life.
That you got the bathroom in those 5 minutes, right? What does your husband think of all your writing? You're a storyteller.
Oh, he liked it. Yeah, he's passed away now, but he was the one who redid the house. I mean, I have all these beautiful photographs that he took of the house, so it's really, And I have all the rights to them, don't I?
There you go. Now, how often do people come through your house for the tour?
Oh, that was just one day.
Oh, I thought they do it every week.
Oh,
I could take that.
I'm not that crazy. No,
Oh, my
no, no, no,
God.
no.
I thought it was one of those things that they schedule a tour
It
every
was
week.
in May of, I think, 2005.
Oh, okay, so you've had a respite for a few years.
No, I don't. Yeah, and I don't live there anymore, so.
Oh, I thought you did. No. Oh,
I sold it in 2013.
You loved it so much. I said, why did you leave?
Well, you know.
It's a lot to take care of.
Yeah, it is.
How many rooms did it have?
8.
8. Okay. That's a lot of. How many bedrooms? 4?
3.
3. And it was Victorian.
Mm-hmm.
Was it built in the
1876.
Right,
It was built by Alexander Esty.
my grandfather Lewis's father, Fletcher Lewis. They came, I believe, from Scotland and Nova Scotia. They migrated to Chelmsford, Mass.
Oh,
So he built that Victorian. It was around probably, I don't know, early mid-1800s. And it was the first one to have indoor plumbing in Chelmsford.
well, I have to say, my house was built in 1876 with indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
And my mother from the Midwest, from Marion, Indiana, she said, I can't, but we didn't have indoor plumbing until 1920.
What? Oh my God, can you imagine that? Libby, we got about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Again, how can they reach you? Your favorite email.
Libby.frank@verizon.net.
Don't forget FRANCK.
CK,
Libby,
yes.
LIBBY.
Yes.
Frank at Verizon.
And I think I still have a website, which is libbyfrank.com, I think. I think Cliff brought it back to life again.
So you are very open to, if you've got a email within the next few weeks, gee, Libby, we saw you on the show, we'd like to have you come. How far will you travel?
Well, it depends. Generally in Massachusetts, but I go to the New England states. I do things in Maine and in
Great,
Hampshire.
that's good.
Yeah, I'm doing something at in Portland at Shanachie Nights.
I was born in South Portland. This is how the lives are like.
You know the tavern?
I was only there for like a year.
Oh, okay. And you probably said
Then we moved to
you were going
Massachusetts.
the tavern. But they have Shanachie Nights once a month. So I'm doing the Scottish stories there in October.
Aha, see that? Oh, God, we could go on for an hour's week together. Thank you for being with us.
That was a lot.
Glad we have you back. Let me know about that book. Sounds
Okay.
good. Are you doing it all on your own? No help? Nothing? Just...
I have to get going. I've got a wonderful woman in Framingham, Lynn Damianos. I think she'll help me. She does.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you, Libby. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
I guess. Great job.